Can't forget Moo.
We're just waiting for the signal. You coming down here?
Come here, baby. You want to come over here? All
Okay.
right.
They're going to do the show me first.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
All right, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, good. Good morning. You've made it. No, everybody, well, maybe you're actually here late, right? You all set your clocks back, right? Yeah, obviously. All right, so I have no funny jokes this morning. It's too cold for jokes. Except for, I will say, that the time is a-coming for some wasps and bees on my property. Because it's too cold for them to fly around and sting me anymore, right? But I'm going to open up the soffit and fascias very soon. And then there will be the massacre. Oh, I don't really should say that really, but I'm allergic. As you maybe have heard or maybe not heard, I'm seriously allergic to bees and wasps, and they will kill me eventually. And I've had something like about, 5 wasp stings, 2 bee stings in the space of about 8 weeks. And the last 2 hospitalized me, so they're not my favorite things. But I think they're ganging up on me, to be honest. All right, so what I'm going to talk about is the Christ-centered life, okay? So I don't know if many of you, are we live, by the way, or not live? We're not live, okay. All right. Have you ever found that life has been, before I start, let's do one more thing. There's 2 things I want to share. Kimberly, can you please stand up a second? Kimberly here runs the soup kitchen, right? And so what I want us to do, she's really, really needing volunteers, okay? Now, there's a way to do that if you want to do that individually, that you have to go through Facebook, I believe, right? But as a church, I want us to be praying about this and thinking about this. As a church, I want us to volunteer at least 1 week every 3 months, right? As a church, go in and help serve. I'm going to tell you right now, I know you have done some, haven't you, yeah? Amy's done some, I've gone in. It's very rewarding, right? It's very rewarding. And so as a church, I want to be able to sort of give back to our community. So if you want to be part of that, then please see me afterwards, right, or later, anytime, right, so that we can get some help together and just do that. It's literally between 4 o'clock and rewarding, right? It's very rewarding. And so as a church, I want to be able to sort of give back to our community. So if you want to be part of that, then please see me afterwards, right, or later, anytime, right, so that we can get afterwards, right, or later, anytime, right, so that we... I've heard myself speaking. I don't like hearing myself speak. Are we good? Okay, can you still hear me through this? Okay, all right. I think that was a technical glitch. Are we good? Okay, all right, let's start again. You ever notice how life has a way of pulling you off balance sometimes, right? That 1 week you're full of faith, and then the next week you're running on fumes. And if we're honest, most of us spend more time trying to hold everything together than actually letting Christ hold us together. Well, I hope that what I'm going to speak about today speaks to that, right? That because this has been my story for more than over 40 years. My life has not been a straight line. It's got lots of detours. Lots of loops, double backs. Go back to, was it in Monopoly? Go back to the start, or whatever it was, right? That's been my life for the longest time. Life pressing in on me all the time, right? Through the highs and through the lows and towards the deeper life of God. It's been that long journey, right, that has shaped the messages that we've been walking through, and it's the same heartbeat. Because if some of you want to know that I haven't been up here for about the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, right, teaching, I've been writing a book, right? The book is nearly done. It's got about 18 chapters. It's about 180 pages, and it's called The Divine Dance. And so hopefully within the next month or so that I can find some way of getting it published and distributed, right? But it's been this life that's really been the heartbeat, right, of that book, what I've been going through. So over the past few months, right, when I've been up here teaching, right, we've been seeing two distinct movements of God's story with us. First came the revelation, right, of who he is, right? Touching the Father's heart was number one. Kissing the Son, right, where reverence meets relationships. The whispers of the Spirit, where presence becomes partnership with us. Then we stepped into the outflow of what he does in us. Relentless mercy that met us in our need. The scandal of grace that transformed us by love undeserved. And radical love that's taught us how to give as freely as we've received. Then in the middle of all this, that I realized that these are six movements that have traced a dance of redemption. The Father's embrace, the Spirit's surrender, the Son's indwelling. Then the mercy that spares, the grace that changes us, and the love that compels us. And now we're going to arrive here, right? The Christ-centered life. It all leads to this moment, the point where all these threads converge into one, where relationship becomes reflection and transformation becomes testimony. This is the still point of the dance, my dance, right? Christ at the center of all things and at the center of me. And all this brought me to a searching question, and I hope it brings you to the same searching question. If mercy has met me, grace has changed me, and love now flows through me, then who sits at the center of it all? See, because the journey doesn't end with being loved by God. It continues as Christ becomes the life within us. See, this is the turning point of the dance, and I'm not very good at dancing. I want you all to know that. I have 2 left feet. I'm not very good. But I've understood this dance that happened between me and God, right? This is the point where everything I've received begins to take shape from the inside of out. It's no longer about reaching for him, but living from him. So after walking through all of that, mercy, grace, love, Father, Son, Spirit, I began asking the same question I've been asking for most of my life. Okay, Lord, what now? If all of that is true, what is still unfinished within me? And that question has been echoing in my heart for many years. It's led me to this message, the Christ-centered life. See, at the heart of every Christian journey lies one central question. Who is the center of my life? Christ or me? Glad to hear that. I have wrestled with that question for decades. For a long time, right, I have lived as though the world revolved around me. You seen the movie Wayne's World? Yeah. It's always about Wayne, right? So much so that they made a second one. Wayne's World 2. Have you heard the Toby Keith song? I want to talk about me. I won't sing it. That was me. I had received his mercy, his grace, and his love, the forgiveness of my sins. I was a new creation. But there were moments in my life when I had to stop and ask, what has actually changed? See, I was saved, but I was living a shallow life. I was forgiven, but I have been restless. I've saved, but I've yet not surrendered. And deep down, I knew there has to be something more. See, it's the Christ-centered life that is that something that is deeper. It's not about adding Jesus to my plans or inviting him into my orbit, into my world, right? It's about allowing him to become the axis around which everything else turns. It's the surrender of self-rule for a divine rhythm, where identity, purpose, and peace find their true alignment in Him. See, this message is a call to live from that center, to let Christ be both the source and the shape of my life. I have a subtitle to this message called Living from the Still Point of Christ, right? So when I talk about that still point of Christ, what I'm actually talking about is that unshakable center, the place inside me where everything stops spinning. If you think about it, it's like the center of a wheel. The rims may run fast, but the hub, the center, the axle doesn't move, right? Life keeps rotating. Jobs change. And as you can tell, seasons shift. Emotions, they rise and they fall. But at the center, there is a stillness that holds everything together. That's what Jesus becomes when He's truly at the center of my life. The storms don't stop. Life just goes on. It's just life. You understand that, right? But I'm no longer spinning with them. So when I say I'm living from the still point of Christ, what I'm really meaning is let every thought, decision, and desire find balance in Him. See, every human life orbits around something. For some, it's success. For others, it's approval, control, or comfort. But before Christ recentered my life revolved around myself. My desires, my disappointments, my plans. Even my faith sometimes at times was self-referential. God bless what I'm doing. See, but the God doesn't simply invite us, or doesn't simply invite Christ into my orbit. Its purpose is to do this, to dethrone me from the center of my life. And that has been the slow, sacred lesson of my walk in God lately, right? 48 years of learning that the deeper life isn't found in adding more of me, but rather in yielding more of Him, more of me to Him. And when Jesus becomes the axis of my life, everything else realigns in my life, right? Purpose finds clarity. Peace finds an anchor. Identity finds a home. So that's the invitation of this message today, right? To step off the throne of self and into the still point of Christ. See, I've learned that for the Christ-centered life that I have to be recentered by grace, learning to live with Christ at the center of my life. And that's exactly where grace meets me. In that sacred moment, I stopped trying to run my own universe. For years, I thought faith was about asking God to orbit my plans to bless what I was already doing. See, but grace has a way of pulling that rug out of my self-importance, right? So I want us to look at first at Galatians 2:20. My old self has been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. So I live in this earthly body by trusting in the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me. Excuse me. Grace always begins at ground level, right where my ego once sat on the throne of my life, right? You see, it meets me in the quiet moments when I finally stop trying to run my own universe. See, this isn't poetic sentiment. This is spiritual surgery. And poetic sentiment, right? That's a way of to understand that some people read a verse like, I have been crucified with Christ, right, as just a nice metaphor. It's a line to quote. I used to, in my early walk with God, right, I have to do scripture memory. It was part of what we did, right? And that was one of the first verses, Galatians 2:20, that I learned, right? And what it became for a while, just a verse that I spoke, right, sometimes. It's a truth that I could even admire, right? It's a phrase that sounds very spiritual. It's inspirational even, but it doesn't cost me anything. See, it makes me feel something, but doesn't necessarily change anything in my life. See, now spiritual surgery, on the other hand, reminds me that Paul isn't being poetic here. What he's describing is something that cuts, removes, and reshapes the inner life. See, grace doesn't redecorate me like a nice coat that I'm wearing. It operates on me. It kills the old self. And what does it do? It gives birth to a new center where Christ now lives. So just as surgery removes the diseased parts of people's bodies to restore health, grace removes self-centeredness so life can flow again from Christ. See, Paul isn't simply writing nice, pretty words for a poster here. He's describing the painful but necessary work of grace that takes me off the throne and puts Christ there instead. See, Paul says the old life is crucified, not coached. We're not coached. The cross is not self-improvement. It's the relocation of the center. Like a planet that's drifting out of orbit, right? My life can sometimes keep spinning off course until grace pulls me back into realignment. It's as if the gravitational field of Christ overrides the weaker pull of self. That's how grace works. And when I finally surrender that orbit, purpose finds a clarity in my life, peace finds an anchor in my life, and identity finds a home in my life. And we live in a world of GPS. If I want to get from here to there, I just put it up on my GPS. I want to tell you right now, GPSs ain't going to be around forever, right? I've got a compass and a set of maps. I just want you to know. And I know how to use that compass and read that map. And I'll find myself when all of you are lost with your GPS gone out of action. You can hear me now? Okay, sorry about that. That was the quickest battery change you've ever seen, right? So if you get that compass, and I hope you've seen a compass or heard of one, right? But if you get that compass and you shake it around like that, it spins around that needle. But what does it always do when you stop? It finds true north. Exactly. See, grace is the steady hand that stills the needle of my life. When my life is spinning around and around, grace comes in and stills me and settles me to true north of the Christ in my life. We live in an age, right, that tells us that we have to center ourselves. But the gospel calls me to do what? To die to self so that a new center can live. That's the paradox of freedom. When I stop orbiting myself, I'm no longer enslaved by self. Bring up Colossians 1:15 to 17, I believe. Christ holds it all together, right? So Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. He existed before anything was created and is supreme over all creation. For through him God recreated everything in the heavenly realms and on earth. He made the things we can see and the things we can't see, such as thrones, kingdoms, rulers, and authorities in the unseen world. Everything was created through him and for him. So if grace, right, if Galatians was showing grace recentering my heart, did I not read that? He existed before anything else and he holds all creation together. Sorry about that. So if Galatians shows grace recentering my heart, Colossians shows Christ recentering the cosmos. See, the one who lives in me is the same one who holds galaxies from flying apart. That means the Christ who holds the stars also holds my schedule, my season, and even though some of you may not agree with this, my sanity. I like that, right? The one who holds the galaxies together. That's not a poetic exaggeration. It's a divine reality. See, the Christ who sustains the Milky Way also sustains me. And so if his hands can keep the stars in their course, they can keep my heart from becoming undone. It's not cosmic poetry, that's a personal security. It means the stability of my life doesn't depend on my strength to hold it together, but on his power to hold me together. Do any of you know what a planetarium is? Okay, good. There's some people. That's a big dome, right? With a projection of the universe, right? Imagine one of those planetariums spinning round and round until the true sun is placed at the very center. And when that happens, everything else moves in a rhythm. The galaxies move in a rhythm around it. See, that's what happens to me and my life when the cosmic Christ becomes my personal Lord. He doesn't remove motion, he restores balance to me. This world sells control, right? Productivity apps, self-optimization, personal branding as the way to hold everything together. But what I found is that only Christ can do that. See, I've tried all of those other things. Trust me, I've tried everything. But I found that everything else eventually fractures under the weight of expectation of myself on it and other people on me. Next part about the Christ-centered life is that transformation through union, becoming like the one we behold. See, transformation is the natural outflow of proximity. The more closely I live in communion with Christ, the more his nature begins to reshape mine. It's not through any effort, but it comes through a union, through abiding in him, right? It's not what I do for him that changes me. It's who I'm with that changes me. So let's go look at 2 Corinthians 3:18. So all of us who have had that veil removed can see and reflect the glory of the Lord. And the Lord, who is the Spirit, makes us more and more like him as we are changed into his glorious image. Paul's language astonishes me here, right? He doesn't say we imitate Christ. He says we are transformed as we behold him. So that change isn't a mechanical change, it's a relational change. It's what happens when exposure becomes intimacy. What I gaze upon is what I grow to resemble, right? And what I behold long enough will eventually shape who I become. See, for years I tried to achieve transformation through discipline alone, right? More study, more serving, more striving. And I want to say that discipline has a place and it has value. I'm not knocking any of that. But they can't replace beholding the one who holds it all together. See, a mirror doesn't create light. All it does is simply reflects what's placed in front of it. If I turn the mirror away, it's not reflecting light anymore. So what I do every morning is that I turn the face of my soul towards him. See, God said this to me one day when he said, I don't need you to name me. I don't need you to reveal me. I can do that all by myself through the Spirit. But what I want you to do is to reflect me in every area of your life. And how do I reflect him? I gaze upon him. So that's what's mirrored back into me. And then in turn, I mirror that out to everybody I meet in my life. See, we live in a culture that's obsessed, right, with image. I'm really trying to get rid of TikTok. I'm pretty sure that TikTok is going to go very soon. Because I have friends on TikTok and I have some friends on Facebook, and it's all about their image, right? They're trying to monetize. They're trying to get more likes, right? More followers. Look at me, what I can do, right? And it isn't attractive to me. It's about filtering, branding, giving off a different perception to people, right? See, but what does the Spirit do? The Spirit invites me to drop all the filters and live a life that's unveiled. See, that's where transformation can begin in my life. Not in presentation, but in pure presence. See, when I behold the Lord's glory, His patience, His purity, His tenderness, something unseen shifts within me, right? Because slowly and quietly, I start to carry His likeness into the ordinary. It's not a performance, it's a reflection of Him in me. Mary of Bethany really understood this. See, while others hurried to serve, what did she do? She sat still at Jesus' feet. See, her stillness was not laziness, it was an alignment. See, Jesus said, she has chosen what is better. Because transformation flows from where I sit before it flows from what I do. I had found that place a long time ago, and somehow the businesses of life allow me to move away and just try to think that I'm in control of some stuff. It took Jim, right, coming to the place towards the end of his life where I saw that once again, right, I saw somebody sitting at the feet of Jesus and finding His presence. And it inspired something in me. I wanted to go back to that place. He was the catalyst of what's happening in my life right now. Because I saw the beauty that was being reflected in Him. When I looked upon Him, I saw it shining through Him, right? And it caused that thing that says, I want to be there one more time. And God says, what's stopping you, Wayne? Nothing. Come sit at my feet again. I've missed you. That's where I go. Beholding must become abiding. If we go to John 15, verses 4 to 5, John 15 is my favorite chapter. Fruit through abiding. Remain in me and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. So if 2 Corinthians, right, shows transformation through beholding Him, John 15 shows transformation through abiding in Him. See, Jesus replaces the language of mirrors now with the language of the vine. See, abiding is not passive. It's a continual attachment. The steady exchange of His life for mine. See, if you cut a branch from the vine, what happens to the branch? It withers and dies. But connected, it flourishes without any strain. See, the vine, right, so the branch doesn't wake up one day, it's all anxious and say, oh, I need to bear some fruit, some grapes or whatever. It simply stays connected, right? And it's a natural progression that fruit will ultimately come. That's how the spiritual fruit grows. From a shared life, not by any effort. I can't force my fruit to come out. I just have to stay connected. See, joy, peace, patience, kindness, these are not projects for me to manage, but they're evidence of a union between me and Christ. Think of a vine on a trellis, right? Unseen sap moves through the quiet stems, like life pulsing from root to tip. That's the miracle, the invisible miracle of abiding. The same Spirit who transforms by glory in Corinthians now transmits life by grace in John. See, transformation isn't an event, it's an environment that we are in. Culture today equates growth with our hustle. We've got to hustle. We measure success by production and by speed, right? But the kingdom measures by connection and by abiding in Him. In God's economy, stillness is not stagnation, it's saturation. So each day I have to return to that vine. Sometimes I come weary, right? Sometimes I'm distracted and disappointed. But I'm always coming back to Him, to the source, right? And when I do that, I suddenly feel His life and His energy starting to flow steadily through me again and again. And I have to remember this: apart from Him, I can do nothing. But with Him, even my weakness can become fertile ground. Hiddenness and trust, right, is the next part of the Christ-centered life, the quiet work of God within us. See, the deeper I walk with Christ, the more I realize that growth rarely happens in the spotlight. Grace may recenter me and union may transform me, but trust is what sustains me when nothing seems to move in my life, right? Hiddenness is the classroom of trust, where God teaches me to depend on His unseen work more than my visible progress. Colossians 3:3. For you die to this life, and your real life is hidden with Christ in God. Paul doesn't say that my life is lost. He simply says it is hidden. That single word changes everything, right? Hiddenness isn't a punishment, it's a protection. It's the season where God shields me from what He's shaping within me. For a long time, there were years that I mistook obscurity for Him abandoning me. When my prayers, did you feel like that your prayers have gone unanswered? When opportunities have faded and things seem to have got lost. When it seemed like everyone else around me was being promoted or getting successful, while I was being buried under the weight of whatever I was carrying. But over time, I began to see something, that buried things aren't dead things. Seeds disappear beneath the soil before they ever bloom. Hiddenness isn't the absence of life. It's the environment for new life. And that realization changed how I saw delay in my life. The same grace that once resented me now guards me, right? Wrapping me in divine anonymity until the right time. I may not see the growth beneath the surface, but I know that heaven does. The root system of trust is forming when no one claps and very few notice. See, this is a world that measures worth by their visibility. The likes, the views, the validation. God whispers, you're most alive when you're most unseen. He hides me with Christ in God. A double covering of belonging and security. And in that hiddenness, right, my faith grows roots that applause can never water. Philippians 1:6. And I am certain that God, who began the good work within you, will continue His work until it is finally finished on the day when Christ Jesus returns. Hidden seasons, right, test my patience, but they also reveal God's persistence. And while I see progression in inches, He sees the finished picture in eternity. There's comfort for me in that, right? Knowing that even in my waiting, He's still working in me. When I feel stuck, He's strengthening something. When I feel unseen, He's securing something. And when I feel unfinished, He's reminding me that I'm still in His hands. I used to like watching people, sculptors, right? They get this block of stone, right? And they start working on it. They start chipping and chiseling away, right? God doesn't discard the stone because it's incomplete. He keeps chiseling. I don't see what he's doing sometimes. I'm like, what is he seeing there? What on earth is that? He sees something that I'm not seeing, right? And each tap of the chisel may look like loss, but it's actually a refinement. See, the shape may not yet resemble the vision, but I want you to know that the artist hasn't ever left the studio. So what appears oftentimes as loss, is often just the shaping of love within me. Culture teaches impatience. Launch fast, grow big, be seen. But God teaches longevity. Grow deep, stay rooted. Trust me. That's the hard part right there, trust me. Do you know what trust really means? Letting him. Letting him. He used to say this to me, and I used to hate it when he said it. Trust in the trusting, Wayne. What does even that mean, God? Trust in the trusting process. It's a process. Let me do it. So I rest in the promise of Philippians 1:6, that he who began his good work in me will finish it. My confidence isn't in my progress, but it's in his persistence. And when I can't trace his hand, I sure can trust his heart. Living radiantly, Christ revealed through an ordinary life. See, when Christ truly becomes my center, his light can't help but shine outward. Holiness was never meant to be hidden. It's the quiet radiance of a heart at rest in him. This isn't about performing goodness, but just about reflecting his presence in my life. The same grace that recentered me, the same union that transformed me, and the same trust that anchored me now begin to spill over in my life, right? See, what has been cultivated in secret starts to eliminate the ordinary part of my life. Matthew 5:14-16. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Jesus didn't say, try to be the light. He said what? You are the light. That means radiance isn't a task, it's an identity. See, light doesn't ever struggle to shine. You know that, right? What does light simply do when it's connected to a source, a power source? It just shines. That's it. See, for many, many years, I thought that my ministry, that my calling, right, was all about striving to make an impact. Light doesn't hustle, y'all. It just does what? Shine. Illuminates. Its power doesn't come from performance, but from what? Connection to the source. The more Christ fills me and my life, the more his light shines through the cracks of my life. A lighthouse on a dark coastline doesn't chase ships, right? It's just stood there on the coast, solid. This is what, it just simply stands there and shines. Does its job. Its influence is steady, it's not flashy, it's just faithful. That's what living radiantly looks like in our lives, right? It's quiet consistency that guide others home. Our culture is really, about visibility, and it's been confusing with value. They value that, right? Be seen, that's got value in your life. No, it doesn't. Everybody's building platforms, measuring reach, fighting for the spotlight. But do you know what Jesus does? He just simply reminds me, the light isn't about being seen. It's about him being known. See, when my light shines rightly, the glory never stops with me. What does it do? It points to who? The Father. So what I do is I pray this all the time. Lord, help me stand steady in the place you've set me. and let my light reveal your heart, not my name. Philippians 2:13-15. For God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases Him. Do everything without complaining and arguing, so that no one can criticize you. Live clean, innocent lives as children of God, shining like bright lights in a world full of crooked and perverse people. So if Matthew is calling me to shine, Philippians reminds me how to, right? Through the quiet grace of my daily faithfulness. The same God who works in galaxies is also at work in my attitude, my words, and my tone. He doesn't just give the strength to serve, but the desire to reflect His goodness in the ordinary moments. Shining isn't just for the pulpit or the platforms. Shining happens in traffic, in meetings, dinner tables, how I handle pressure, and how I treat people who can't ever repay me. Most people won't see that, but heaven notices. Every small act done in love becomes a glimmer of divine light. Like stars scattered across a night sky. I love being out in the country, or I actually see the stars finally, right? Our collective light pushes back the darkness one act at a time. See, no single star can outshine the night, but together they reveal the heavens. That's the church's witness. That's what we should be doing. It's not about perfection, but about reflection. It's not about fame, it's about faithfulness. See, this world is loud, it's critical, cynical, combative. But when I choose gentleness instead of sarcasm, gratitude instead of grumbling, patience instead of irritation, something holy happens within me, right, and around me. See, heaven leaks into earth through simple obedience to Him, to live a life pleasing to Him. I just understood, right, that that this is the full rhythm of the Christ-centered life, right? Grace recenters me, union transforms me, hiddenness deepens the trust, and radiance reveals. They're not steps to climb, right, but they're moments to live in our lives. A continual return to the still point of Christ, where everything begins and ends. So what I've learned to do is that I learned that this rhythm becomes one surrender. I live this rhythm one surrender at a time. I start the day doing this, praying, Jesus, realign my orbit. And when striving creeps in, as it does, right, I ask, turn my effort into abiding. In the waiting, I whisper, hide me until I can hold what it is you're forming. And in the ordinary, I pray, let my light reveal your heart, not my name. And every breath becomes an echo of grace, recentering me again and again and again. I'm always rushing to the next moment. But instead, what I need to learn to do is to sit in the Spirit, what He may be highlighting in my life. We're going to move into a time of reflection right now, right? But before we move into the next song, I want to give you a moment to let these truths settle, to listen not just to my words, right, but to what the Spirit might be whispering to you even. Maybe one of these 5 questions, right, that I'm going to ask right now, describe the place that you're standing in right now. Have I been trying to hold my life together instead of letting Christ hold me? Maybe today is the moment to step off the throne of self and let grace recenter me. Have I been striving for change instead of abiding in His presence? Maybe this is the invitation to stop performing and to start beholding instead. To let His life flow again through yours and through mine. Am I weary from a hidden season? Boy, oh boy, am I ever. Wondering if God sees, if He's still working in my life. Maybe this is the reminder right now that He hasn't left me. He's shaping me. And maybe I need to come again and trust him again in the waiting, even though I hate waiting. Have I dimmed my light, grown cautious, tired, or quiet in my witness? Maybe tonight is about rekindling the flame, letting his love shine through my ordinary life once more. Or maybe I just need to find my way back to the still point, the center where it all began, where Christ holds everything together. And if any of those words speak to you, don't stay in your seat. Come down here. There are people here who are willing to pray for you. Let grace recenter your life, and let love draw you home to the still point of Christ.